All right. Good evening. Welcome, everyone, to The Unstoppable Singer. I am your host, Danielle Tucker. I'm a singer, a vocal coach, and a lead singer with the Mighty Untouchables Band. I produced and hosted the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit 1 and 2. And I just recently, like a week ago, a week or two ago, actually just came off of producing and hosting the Unstoppable Singer Summit, which was wonderful. If you were there, thank you for joining us. It was a pretty big undertaking, so we took that Wednesday night off, and I've had a few gigs since then, so had to take a couple of Wednesdays off. But I am super excited to be here tonight, bringing you the Unstoppable Singer again, which is a live interview style show where I follow the lives of real life professional singers. And these singers have made some incredible achievements in their lives and careers. And we cover everything from voice work, making money, booking gigs, songwriting, recording, session work, and a whole lot more. So we're just kind of pulling the curtain back of the industry a little bit to take a look. And with everything that we have been through as a musical community in the past couple of years, we're going to focus strongly on going from surviving to thriving once again, and safeguarding our careers, building strong bodies, minds, and open hearts. So if this sounds like something for you, please stick around, because I have a wonderful guest tonight. I'm so excited that she's here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Karen Drucker with us tonight. Karen's message is all about healing and love, whether singing one of her positive message songs or sharing stories that are funny, inspiring, and heart opening. She's a keynote speaker, women's retreat facilitator, and entertainer who has recorded 20 CDs of her inspirational music. Karen is also the author of the best-selling book, Let Go of the Shore: Songs and Stories to Set the Spirit Free. Her chants and songs are used around the world and often help people deal with illness and loss, and help them feel the need to feel more centered for the day. Karen's intention is to make a difference by using her music to open hearts and share a message of hope, acceptance, and love. So let me bring her right on. Hello, Karen.
Hi. I'm
How are
so
you?
impressed with you already, I got to tell you.
Oh,
I am. You just got this really wonderful way of presenting, but also you are like me, where it's like you just said before we started that it's like in the pandemic, what am I going to do? And you
yeah.
created something. And the fact that you're doing these summits and you're bringing so many singers together and having a forum and be able to have dialogue and to have support, yay. I toast to you.
Oh, Karen, thank you so much. That
Really.
means so much coming from you. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
Oh, well, it's true.
But thank you also for being here with us tonight and taking the time to do this. I know that you are a very busy lady. We touched briefly on the fact that I became acquainted with your music probably 5 years ago, because I began working with these Centers for Spiritual Living and Unity Centers. And your music is very well loved in that community. And if you're any part of one of those groups, you know Karen's music. And so I've just grown to love your music so much. I can't I've sung countless songs that you've done and have loved every one of them. And they are all very meaningful. And as I, look out at our congregations, I see how meaningful it is to everyone else. So you
Oh,
definitely are making a very big difference.
well, thank you. I'm complete. Thanks so much for having me. Bye bye.
Good night.
Thank you. That's really sweet of you. And I would love to hear you sing some of my songs. You
Oh,
must just
yeah.
kill them. So
Oh, all right. I'd love to do that. Well, so why don't we just dive right in?
let's dive.
Speaking of, coming up with things during the pandemic, as singers, things just came to a crashing halt for all of us. What was that experience like for you, and how
Oh,
has it been coming back from that?
let me tell you, let me get a glass of wine and a cigarette. Let me just
Yes.
tell you my whole story. So I have to tell you, here's the story. So I love what I do. I mean, I'm very blessed. I've been doing this for 1,000 years. Very blessed that before the pandemic happened, I was on the road. I'm speaking at all these churches. I'm singing. I'm doing concerts and women's retreats and blah, blah, blah. And I'm on the road all the time. And I start to really listen to myself, get up there and tell these women about self-care. And you have to really know what your heart is feeling and all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I am completely burnt out. I'm just exhausted. And so I literally, in March of 2020, said, okay, God, I need just a couple of weeks to figure, just to stop the train, just to figure out what is next, because something needs to change. And then, so I am fully responsible for all of this. So you can all blame me. But yeah, it's like when that happened, I had a year's worth. I mean, I'm one of these very organized types. And so all of my hotels, my flights, my cars rented, I mean, everything for like the entire year is handled. And this happened and I freaked out because it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do for a living? I mean, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. A friend of mine said, this pandemic is going to cure you of your technophobia, because what was apparent to me was what we are doing right now. It was, I was starting to, after a couple weeks of everyone kind of going, oh my God, what's happening? I started to get calls about, can you do a concert, online? And I'm like, how do you do that? And I remember luckily my husband is a musician. He's a guitar player and a bass player, and he's an engineer as well. So he takes it on himself. Like, he's going to show me, he's going to get the sound thing together online. And so we get everything set up. This was Centers for Spiritual Living they started off having these monthly concerts for all the different musicians that are in this world. We all started doing concerts. So the first concert I did, I swear to God, my heart was beating so hard. I was like, I have not been this nervous.
Yeah.
Since like in my 20s, I mean, I just was so freaked out about how do you do this, and how do you relate to a camera like that, and how do you, because I mean, I would say one of my strengths is reading a room. I just know how to, whether it's a private party or, a women's retreat, I know what is needed and I can feel what song should be next. How do you do that online?
Yeah.
So anyway, I make this set list. I do it. We're off and running. I'm going, oh my God, this is working. And I'm doing my little concert. And at the very end, I never knew how you end it. And so at the end here, I've done this whole concert. Thank you all very much for coming. And then you see me going up to the screen going, how do you stop it?
Oh my God, I love it.
I look like such a geek. I'm such a geek. And I'm like, for 5 minutes. And my husband goes, oh, just put your hand over the thing so people don't see you guys. How do you? But what happened was, I have to say, if I'm going to be really honest, this was like, I mean, as much as this was devastating, and I went through depressions, I went through all this kind of stuff, it was really a miracle for me, because it made me stop. It just made me stop and go deeper in to say, what really floats your boat? What do you really want to do? And to just have that quiet time and rest time. And from that place, it was like rising from the ashes. From that place, I started to do concerts. I started to do women's groups. I mean, the first thing I did was I asked like 10 of my girlfriends, would you be my guinea pigs and let me try a women's group with you and just see if I screw up, I'm among friends and people aren't paying me. And I started to learn how to do this. And what happened for me was the world opened up, because all of a sudden I'm doing women's classes, I'm doing concerts, I'm doing house concerts where people would hire me to come online, and they'd invite 20 of their friends, and we'd have this party. And what was amazing to me was how I could still read the energy. I mean, you say, how do you read the room? Well, I could still read it this way. And what was really amazing was, all of a sudden now I've got people coming to my concerts or retreat or whatever that are all around the country, that those people couldn't have come to be at one of my retreats. Maybe they had kids or a job or whatever.
Yeah.
I even had one time where someone said, oh, well, we use your songs in our meditation class. Would you mind coming on and just singing a couple songs? And I'm like, sure. It was 5 o'clock at night. It's like, okay, sure. I log on. I hit the thing. There's what was it? It was like 1,000 people in India.
Wow. India.
And they're all singing my songs. I'm like, how do you people know?
Wow.
So it just showed me that there's such a bigger world out there that this medium can give us. And I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
now it's a balance of, doing both.
Yeah. God, that makes me want to cry because it makes me think back to the first couple months of interviews that I started doing in 2020 and just hearing the devastating stories and the sadness and the depression. And then, coming, almost 3 years down the road now and hearing so many beautiful stories of recovery and, like you've just described, having a whole new world opened up to you, that you never even knew was possible for you. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing to recognize, all of the blessings and the gifts that did come out
There
of that
have been, yeah, there have
situation.
been a lot of blessings for a lot of people. And, one of the things you just mentioned, the depression, it's like one of the things I talk about in my retreats a lot is to allow whatever feelings come up, just
Yeah.
because if you stuff them down, it's like stuffing down beach balls in a pool. They're all popping up, and you're trying to stuff them all down. And when
Mhm.
I allowed myself to just really feel it, and
Mhm.
and let go of the idea of what that year was going to be,
Mhm.
um, it was really hard. I really had, because I even had my very first international. I was going to England. I was so excited to go to England, and that
Oh.
got canceled. And so each thing was a grief. And
Mhm.
each thing I had to allow the grief to come up of, this is no longer. I don't
Mhm.
know what it's going to look like in the future. And rebuild from that. And to be really honest, I went through a huge depression around my mantra at that time, believe it or not. Here I am, little Miss Affirmations of the world. Why bother? Why should I bother writing
Mm.
songs
Mm.
if I'm not going to be performing? Why should I bother recording my songs if people aren't buying CDs anymore?
Yeah.
That's been my living for many years is,
Mhm.
I would play at these churches and they wouldn't necessarily pay a lot, but the back of the room would,
Yeah.
I'm up to actually to 21 CDs now. I'd have all of my CDs, I'd have my little merchandise, and that's what would make my living. And so now, with all of this happening and people aren't really buying CDs anymore, it's like I just thought, well, maybe I'm done. Maybe that's what I
Mm.
was supposed to do, was just that much. And I really sunk into that place of like, well, that was fun, and what's next? But
Mm.
I really just, got into this depression. But I was very lucky because I had a friend of mine, a songwriter, who, we were commiserating one day about this, and he said, this is my friend Gary Lynn Floyd, if you don't know him,
Yes.
wonderful singer-songwriter. He goes, well, why don't we just start on Zoom? Why don't we just write a song today with no idea of it needs to be recorded or produced or performed. We just write a song just to write a song.
Mm.
And I realized I was in such a habit for so many years of everything that I did was always with an outcome of something.
Mm.
If I'm going to write a song, oh, it's going on this album. Oh, if I'm going to write a song, it's to match this message of this church that I'm going to be talking, whatever.
Yeah.
And just to write a song. And so we started to just have an every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Let's just get together, and if
Mhm.
all we do is just commiserate about how we're feeling and whatever. But what happened from that organic place of no expectations,
Mhm.
that was amazing, because no expectations of what it was supposed to be. And we started writing these really cool songs. And from that place, all of a sudden I just got, you know what? This is what I love to do. Even if
Yeah.
no one hears it, I just love having my brain chewing on a song all week long. Like, what's that
Mhm.
next lyric going to be? And it revived that creative spark in me. And so what happened was we just wrote a ton. And then it was like, you know what? I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know how it's going to be, but I'm going to record some of these things. And I
Mhm.
recorded some of this stuff with, again, with no idea of like, am I making a CD? Am I whatever? But I just put it out on my website, and I wound up making like 100 CDs as opposed to what we've all done before, 1,000. It's
Mhm.
like the Costco toilet paper. God forbid it was getting.
Right.
And so anyway, I made just 100 CDs, but I started putting it out and people are buying it and I'm just enjoying it. So I'm doing it again. I'm doing another CD. And what was hysterical to me was because we couldn't have anyone come in,
Mhm.
my husband, who's a great player, he's a wonderful player, he got this program called, I don't know what it's called, backup singers, and
Mhm.
he programmed them to be going, what,
Wow.
singing the backup singer. So some of these songs that are on this last album of mine are, I called them, I named them all these, Shalita Buffet and all these names, and called them the Druckettes, and there they are singing away for me. But now at least we can do it live, so I'm very happy.
That is
But
so
yeah, I mean, you just got to just see what's happening and just go with what's in front of you and say, what sparks your joy.
Mhm. Mhm. That what a great opportunity just to, like, return back to that almost, like, childlike awe and pure creativity that we all start with as, musicians and singers going into this business. There was something that just was so naturally driven within us, to do this. And then as you become more established and more professional in your career, it becomes very transactional. Not completely. We all still love, what it is that we're doing, but
But it's a
there
job.
it's a job,
I mean,
right?
once someone came up to me once after for many years, I made my living doing private parties
Mhm.
in San Francisco. And, when someone came up and said, do you get paid for this? I was like, well, yeah. She goes, but you look like you're having so much fun.
Mhm.
Really? You get paid? And I was thinking, well, that's what makes me a professional. Because on days when I just do not
Mhm.
want to be doing this, I would
Right.
rather be home, reading a book or something like that. I'm going to go out there and look like I'm having the time of my life.
Mhm.
Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, but I'm going to always look like I am
Yeah,
because, that's my job.
that's right.
So, when did you get into music? How old were you when you started to actually make a living doing it?
Well, I mean, I started out as a kid singing in church, but I think probably into my early teens, I went on a TV show, and then I think that was kind of my first affirming experience. That like, wow, I could actually maybe do something with this, and then just jumped into any and everything that I
Anything.
possibly could.
Do you
You
remember
know.
that moment when it was like, oh my God, maybe I could actually do this? I mean, I could still
Mhm.
even remember where I was when I had that thought.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and I
happy.
think a big part of that experience for me too was going to a concert, and it certainly hadn't been my first concert, but one that moved me so much because I felt so connected to the singers and the music on stage that, like, burning desire within me was like, "I have to do this. I
Yeah.
wanna be on that stage right now." "How do I get an audition for this group?" But
Yeah.
just, that definitely lit my fire for
And it's the
sure.
burning. I mean, I remember that same thing, that burning desire. It's like I mean, I can like tap into it right now.
Mhm.
Just like I just wanted to just do anything on stage. Just
Yeah,
be there, be in all of that.
yeah.
And it's true. As you go on, and I've been doing this a really long time. It changes. But I think that the one thing, because I know that you talk to a lot of singers about making a living at it. To
Mhm.
me, what it's about is that you have to have that burn. You have to
Yeah.
have that desire, because if you don't have that, if someone's saying, "Well, gee, what happens if I'm not, if I can't really make it?" It's like it's like there was no option for me.
No,
I
no
mean, if I
plan
had to
B.
wait tables and I was a house cleaner, I mean, I did everything possible just to make the rent so that I could sing at some cabaret club in San Francisco for $50 a night.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever I needed to do.
Ah,
And again, that's why I admire what you're doing, because it's like when I was young and I didn't have anything going on. I mean, I remember this first club that I tried to get a gig at. They said, "Well, we're not going to hire you until you have a name." And of course, I
mm.
said, "Well, how do I get a name?" And they said, "Well, that's your problem. You have to
Right.
be able to get a name." So I really took that like, okay, well, what can I do? And I
Mhm,
did everything that I could do to,
mhm,
I mean, when I look back on all the kind of chutzpah things that I did, I went up to some of the bands that I admired, and I
mhm.
said, "Can I be your opening act for free?"
Yeah.
Just again to get that name. And I started because I was friends with a few different bands that were playing all around the Bay Area. They were really popular. I'm saying I'll do this, and I was really compatible with what they were doing, and they knew me. It's like,
Mhm.
what a perk for them that they have an opening act. I'm getting exposure, and now I'm playing at all the clubs that I wanted to play at, and the
Mhm.
owners are seeing me, but I'm coming in on their, you know, on their bill.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to come back 6 months later, I was able to play there because now I did have, a little bit more of a name. But,
It's
I
brilliant.
remember even going to a restaurant and saying, I see you have a piano there. Do you have music? And they're like, no. I said, well, can I play for dinner, and see if people liked having music? And
Mhm.
so I would do that and wound up, getting a job that way. I mean, it's like whatever I could do.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you look back and feel grateful for that almost like naivete at the time and the gall to go out and do stuff? Because years down the road, being in ensembles, you know what it's like for someone to approach you like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so
I'm
grateful
amazed at
I
myself.
didn't
No,
know.
I was. I just was like, I don't know. Well, here, that's the name of your thing, unstoppable. I mean,
Right.
I was just
Mhm.
unstoppable. If you're going to tell me no, fine. That means I'm not supposed to be there. I'm supposed to go over here.
Right. Yeah.
So I just did whatever I had to do, and I was thrilled to be like cleaning houses during the day, so that I
Mhm.
just it kept myself open for anything that was going to happen at night. I mean, I just did whatever I had to do
Yeah.
to the point of I remember when I got my first apartment and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to pay the rent? And someone called me and said, do you teach guitar lessons? And I'm like, I don't play the guitar. It's like, yes, sure. I
Oh
teach
my
guitar
god.
lessons. You want to come tomorrow? And what I would do literally I would learn 2 chords every week and to come in and go, and I would find all the songs that have 2 chords, and
Oh
teach,
my
and teach these lessons,
god. Mhm.
and make a living. And then I started doing piano lessons and just like whatever I could do. But it just cracked me up. Do you teach guitar? Yeah, sure. No problem. I'll fake it.
I love that so, but I love you, Karen. That is the unstoppable spirit that
It
I
is.
am
It's
just
what we got
like
to
so
have.
about.
Yeah. It's what we got to have. And I just, the one thing I've always said, I mean, it's really interesting, Danielle. I feel like you're now my best friend. It's just, you're so sweet. But I've always said about myself that there are so many singers that are so much better than me. I mean, I had, some of the people singing backup for me
Mhm.
could sing circles around me.
Mhm.
But I would always look at that and say, I might not have their voice and
Mhm.
that amount of talent, but this part of what we're talking about is just that I would go out and get the gig. I would be the one
Right.
getting the gigs. So that's why I was out front. And a lot of the people that I've seen that have been really great singers, I think because they got so much acknowledgement of how great they were, that maybe that fire wasn't quite as burning.
Right.
And I always would feel like I felt like, and I'm not putting people down for this at all, but it just would be like I would see them waiting for the phone to ring.
Mhm.
And I think that there's some part of me that just always felt like if I don't go out there and create it, that phone's not going to ring.
Yeah.
But they would be kind of like, I'm really great. Why isn't the phone ringing?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's one thing about when we look at Unstoppable, that's really what it is. It's like, how can you think outside the box
Mhm.
of what everybody else is doing, and create your own, well, I love this expression, stand on the piece of real estate that is your own.
Mm. Oh, I love
Stand on
that.
that place where
Yeah.
this is what you do.
Mhm.
And it took me many years to get to this place of feeling that because I
Mhm.
was trying to do the typical singer-songwriter route and wearing pink spandex mini dresses and,
Yes.
God knows what I did. But, and I was, because I grew up in Hollywood. So I was doing that whole thing, trying to get a record deal and all that. And I just think it's amazing how life works of the zigzag path that my life took that led me to the music that I'm doing today, which is what I'm supposed to be doing. I wasn't supposed to do that other thing.
Yeah, that's incredible. It makes me think about the fact that when we do get that initial spark or that drive to get into this, we usually are trying to model ourselves after some image that has been portrayed to us of the business, and we're motivated to like attain that image, right? But as we get into it, we're discovering these supposed shortcomings that we have that don't match or don't meet the standards of that image, right? And I just remember for so many years asking, like, God, why would you give me this voice and this drive to be in this business, yet make me so flawed in this area and this area and this area, why would you do that to me? Right. But now, so many years down the road, I think it's exactly what you're saying is those were the things that kept you motivated and let you know psychologically, this is not going to be handed to you. You're going to have to work extra hard because, um, it there are well, I would think we all realize they're not shortcomings now down the road. At the time, we didn't know that. But, those were the things that really drove us and then ultimately kind of became what is signature to us and really
Isn't
what
that
defined
amazing?
us. It's incredible.
Sometimes in my women's retreats, I have people bring a picture of themselves when they were younger and do
Mhm.
the exercise of like, what would you say to her? What would she say to you?
Mm.
And, when you look at that picture, it's like, I look back on, my little hot pink spandex mini dress with my stilettos, and I just think, and she's trying so hard. I could just feel
Mhm.
like she's trying so hard. And, it's like maybe this comes with getting older, that I just feel like everything is in divine right order.
Yeah.
I really believe that it's like, had I mean, it's that thing of regrets in your life. You think about, oh, should I have done this? Should I have stayed in Hollywood? Should I have, and I just truly believe in that. I don't know, maybe that's the spiritual part of me, that I just feel that everything works in some weird divine right order, that you meet someone, that someone plops in your life that leads you in a whole different direction than you ever thought.
Yeah.
Do you know about my Carole King connection? Do you know that story?
No, no, tell me.
So here I am. So I'm, a total so I went to Hollywood High, like totally. And I'm growing up in Hollywood. And again, it's those images that you're talking about.
Mhm.
It's like everyone had long blonde straight hair and they're tan and gorgeous and skinny. And here I am with, this and curly hair. And so I'm straightening my hair. I've got acne and braces. I'm just a drip. But around that time, around when I'm like 15 years old, I lived in Laurel Canyon in Hollywood,
Wow.
and that's where all the rock stars lived.
Mhm.
And who moves in on my street but Carole King?
Oh my
And
gosh.
she moves in with her two older daughters, and she just had a new baby. And I was the resident babysitter for everyone on my
Oh
street.
my gosh.
So I, in my typical chutzpah way, I just march on down, knock on the door, and go, "Hi there, I babysit for all the kids. I understand you have a kid. Do you want me to babysit?" And she's
Oh
like,
my
"Yeah,
god.
I'd love to," because she had a live-in nanny, but she needed Sundays off, so I was Sunday. And Sunday turned into, more, and she then had another baby, and she became my everything. I was like her substitute older daughter, because at that time Louise, her oldest daughter, was in a really rebellious stage, and I'm like the perfect little girl. So, and I looked so much like her that
Yeah.
people would always just think I was her oldest daughter. And she took me to her hairdresser to get my hair cut like this, and gave me her funky muslin clothes. And I mean, she was just like my second mom. But the thing that was amazing was she knew I wanted to do music, but I had no talent. I mean, I was a swimmer. I swam 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. I mean, I was training for the Olympics. That's all I knew. But one day I come home from school, and in my bedroom is her piano. And
No.
yes. So she was
I'm
remodeling.
dying right now. I'm
So
dying.
she was remodeling her recording studio in her house, and needed to store her piano for a while they were remodeling. She knew I wanted to do music, and she arranged it with my mom. I came home. Here's her piano in my bedroom. And that is what is known as spirit going, you're going this direction. And I just must have played for hours and hours and hours every day. I just was so motivated to learn how to play piano. And I couldn't sing my way out of a paper bag. I was terrible. And she said to me, because I think I mentioned this to her one day, she said, here's a quote: "If you sing your own songs, if you write your own songs, it doesn't matter how you sing." She said, "Look at me, look at Bob Dylan." So I went, oh, there's a decision I've made. So I became a songwriter
Wow.
who sings my own songs. And to this day, I'll be really honest with you and say that's probably my, if I was to be super honest, like my insecurity is I always feel like I don't ever think of myself as a singer. You know, because I mean, when I was doing private parties and I'm, you know, in some sequin dress singing, you know, as time goes by or whatever,
Right.
I could never feel that that was really me. But when I'm singing one of my own songs and I'm singing a song especially about healing, and I know that someone who's going through cancer is listening to that, that's what makes me feel in alignment. But
Yeah.
the motivation, I mean, I used to cut all my classes at Hollywood High and just go to the piano room and just for hours play and teach myself how to play chords. I still can't read music for beans, but I play chord charts, you
Yeah.
know, great. But isn't that amazing? I mean, that was like divine intervention. Because if that didn't happen in my life, I don't think I'd be doing music. Because I had no other means to do it. I mean, I didn't come from a musical family. I didn't have support around being a musician. But that's what changed my life.
Karen, that is one of the best stories I think I have ever heard. That is incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
wild,
talk
isn't it?
about a divine intervention there.
Yeah, so
I
I went on
mean,
tour with her. I would be the, you know, I'd take care of the kids backstage, and, you know, James and Carly would come over and I'd
oh,
babysit their kids. I
jeez.
mean, it was wild. And that went on through, you know, high school. And then I went away to college and she moved away and, you know, life moved on. But I mean, you can hear, if you listen to my piano playing, you can definitely hear her style in me because
Mhm.
I would listen to her records and try and, you know, I feel the earth move, you know, so
Yeah. Wow. Oh my
yeah.
God. Thank you so much for sharing that. I seriously was dying inside when you were telling that story. It's incredible. So
But
I would imagine, like you said, a lot of your music is probably very heavily influenced by her and
yeah,
other artists during that time period as well.
yeah, I think so. But it really gave me permission to be a songwriter, you know, and
Yeah.
I just played it. Oh my God, I played it every open mic night you could do.
Mhm.
And well, here's a great story. Can I tell you another story? I
Yes.
love my stories. They're so fun because it truly happened. So this is what this is when I look back on this little person. I gotta say, I just go, oh God bless your little sweetheart. So when I first started being a performer, you know, this is in high school. I mean, I'm just doing all the, you know, whatever thing I could do at Hollywood High, getting up on stage. And again, I'm pretty terrible actually, but I'm singing my little songs and but the Troubadour, do you know the Troubadour nightclub
Yes.
in
Uh-huh.
LA? So the Troubadour used to have, I don't know if they still have it, but back then, when I was 17 years old, 16, 17, they would have open mic. Well, no, they wouldn't have an open mic night. They would have a performer on Monday nights, but they would have two people doing a 15-minute slot before that person.
Mhm.
So in order to be that, to get that little open slot, they would come out at 6 o'clock, and whoever was lined up, that's who gets, you know, that's who would get the spot. And so what happened through the years is it got to a point where if they were coming out at 6 o'clock to take the signups, people got savvy, went, oh, if I got here at 5 o'clock, or if I got here
Mhm.
at 4 o'clock, or if I got here at 3 o'clock. And what happened by the time I was doing it, if you didn't get there at 8 o'clock in the morning,
Oh my
you
gosh.
wouldn't get your slot. So it was hysterical. I would do this like almost every week. It became this thing of hanging out on Santa Monica Boulevard outside of the Troubadour all day long. And it became this, it was kind of like Survivor of musicians. It's like, who's going to make it through the day? Because some people would drop out like, this is ridiculous. I'm better than this. And they'd walk off. And it's like, oh, good. Now I'm number two, you know,
Mhm.
because you didn't know how many people they were going to take, if it was going to be
Mhm.
one or three. And so you would wait all day long. And people then would bring their guitars. We're singing songs. We're eating lunch together. I mean, it was just this hangout. And I just remember the very first time I made it on that stage. And they said, yeah, you
Mhm.
know, you made it. You know, you're number two. You can do it. Running home, taking a shower, coming back. And I had my 15 minutes of, you know, fame on the Troubadour stage. And it was so exciting. And
Yeah.
that's what every single week would make me go and sit in that, you sit on the pavement all day long.
Yeah.
But again, it's that burning desire that I wanted to do it. I wanted to learn. I mean, that was what it was really motivated. It wasn't like being a star. It's like I was so interested in learning to get better. And I'm
Yeah.
still doing that.
Yeah. Oh man. That's so inspiring. I would imagine having uh with your longevity in this career, having seen the industry change so much, over the years, coming from that position where you had to be first in line at 8 o'clock in the morning to get the opportunities. The opportunities must have felt few and far between, or like, you had to just work harder than everybody. And then, as you go into the industry too, you begin to realize, well, I'm going to have to get a major record deal, and that's even harder to do. What do you think now, fast forward to today, where we now have the internet, where the playing field essentially has been leveled and the opportunity is it's limitless,
Yeah.
to be honest. You don't really need to have a record deal at this point. It's just, um, do you think that it's easier for artists, or do you think it's just hard in a different way?
Great question. Well, I think it's all, how do I answer that? I think it's so interesting. It's also relative because, when I was in my 20s, was I in my 20s? I guess I was probably in my 20s. And there was a woman, Diane Rappaport, who wrote the first book called How to Make and Sell Your Own CDs.
Hmm.
And and she was in my area. And I remember, God bless her, I was at an event that she was at, and I literally went into I followed her into the bathroom and said, "Can I just work for you?" I'm not this obnoxious, really. To tell you these stories, it's like I think, "Oh my God, who
No,
are
I
you?"
absolutely
But
love
I
it.
just think that I just was like, I just went in and said, "Do you need someone to help you in your office? Because I would love to do that." And it's like she paid me, so little, but I learned how. I mean, that's what her book was. It was the first book on how do you make your own record.
Hmm.
And so that, I learned, I was with her, hearing this, and then I was an assistant to another person that was really big in the new age world, and I
Hmm.
was her assistant, seeing how she sent out CDs and did all this stuff. And so again, it was just this learning process. And so I think that the fact that it's changed so much that now it's just, you're right, level playing field, it's totally different. I feel like it's the exact same thing. It's like, well, we could all bitch, or I'll speak for myself. I could bitch about how, it's not the same anymore. And, but I mean, that's what people were saying when I was doing private parties. I did private
Hmm.
parties. That's how I made my living for years. I
Yeah.
mean, I was in a band. I had a band all the way up to a big band that I would lead. And when jobs started to go to DJs and all the musicians were just grumbling or whatever, I just thought like, well, this is another example of you could just keep fighting reality or realize that, things are changing. I don't
Yeah.
really want to be singing. I can't even name like a really current song right now, but it's like, I don't want to be singing that stuff. It's time for me to regroup. So it feels to me it's the same thing here, that I feel like I'm back at square one
Mm.
of just saying, how do I do this? How do I, what are all the different platforms I'm supposed to be on to stream, and how do you market? And so now that I've met you, it's like I want to learn from more of the. I want to listen to more of these things that you do to hear from people what they're doing, because I feel like I'm back at 21 years old, going, how do I do this? I had no idea back then, but somehow I figured it out.
Hmm.
So I feel it's the same thing now with, with all of this. It's like I don't want to stop recording and writing songs. I want to keep doing it because there's more for me to say.
Yeah.
And how
Yes.
it gets out into the world, I want to have more knowledge. I see that I need to do that. I mean, I have a YouTube channel and, all that stuff. I want to learn how to use Spotify more. And, it's like I mean, one of my songs just hit 2 million And that's like, I didn't do anything. I don't know how that happened. But what
Yeah.
happens if I actually start to learn more how to do that?
Right.
So I'm completely in that teach me mode.
Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. Just in the 39 minutes that you and I have been talking, it is abundantly clear to me why you have had such a wonderful long career. I
Oh,
mean, it's and you're, you are still, at just I mean, you're one of the most popular artists that I know in that genre, and your music is just so well loved, and I just love your spirit, and how you're driven, and how you maintain that perspective. And I think that's so important for all the singers listening to hear, is to just keep that spirit of newness and being new at this, and not allowing yourself to get drawn too much into that, like, I've made it. I know what I'm doing now.
oh
I
God.
I have a lot of experience.
That feels like death to me.
Yeah.
To get to a point where you're just going, oh, I've made it. I'm here. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's what. And now this is the spiritual part of me, that I just really feel that spirit gives you this whatever it is that is yours, and you have to keep. It's like an onion where you just keep peeling layers.
Mhm.
And I mean, so I mentioned being a private party singer. I did that for years, but there came a time where it got so painful for me
Mhm.
because I'm up there singing Evergreen and you know New York, New York, and
Mhm.
I'm selling it, and I'm making a good living. I mean, I had a band, and I kept them employed. But I got to a point where my spirit was starting to die inside because I kept saying, there was this voice that kept saying, there's something more. And I
Mm.
had no idea what it was. And
Yeah.
I remember going into the bathroom on some of these gigs and just crying because going,
Mhm.
I don't know what it looks like. I
Yeah.
don't know where to go. It wasn't like there was a playbook that I could just turn the next chapter and it says, oh, now this is what you do.
Mhm.
I had no idea, but I just had this feeling, and it's different than drive because we've been talking about that hustle drive.
Right,
This
right.
was different. This was like something else needs to be expressed, and I don't know what it. It's almost like
Mhm.
you just feel like there's this birthing happening in you, and you have no idea what it is. And
Mhm.
so I just had to keep trusting and going deeper in my soul to just keep saying, what is it? And I wrote a song called I Feel the Call of Something More. I feel the call to be someone I've never been before. I feel the call of something more. And it's asking me, what am I here for?
Mm.
And I kept just saying, what am I here for? And it just became this thing of realizing that I needed to be moving in a different direction. And that's a lot of what the book that you mentioned is called Let Go of the Shore.
Mhm.
It's so the chorus to that song goes, let go of the shore. Let go of the shore and let the water carry me. Let go of the shore, float into the mystery. Who wants to float into the mystery? But that's what it was,
Mhm.
is floating into the mystery and just saying, okay, I don't know, but show me. And pretty
Mhm.
soon, over the course of time, things started to shift in a different way. Where I got a call one day to sing at a New Thought church, and I didn't even know what New Thought was or
Right.
churches. Or I don't do church. At that time I was singing private parties, but I was mainly singing in blues and jazz bars. Blues bars were like my thing. I loved to sing blues, and I started singing at these churches, and people were listening and I started to write songs to match the minister's message. And for so long, it was like I was really enjoying that. But here's the thing I want to just make a point of, that things can be great. You're doing your thing, but at a certain point, if you get to a point where you just feel like there's like this little feeling in your stomach, like it's like in your gut that there's something more, to just keep analyzing that and trusting that.
Mhm.
And for me, sometimes I think spirit kind of comes in and just kind of does a little tap going, you might want to think about this. You might
Right.
want to think about, maybe this, finally that. And, I got to a point where just singing in church and just doing 2 or 3 songs all of a sudden wasn't enough. Now I felt like there was more of me to express. And so I started doing talks. And from that, growing being a speaker and then adding my music to that and then going, well, wait, I have even more to say. What about if I do a workshop? And what about if I now take that workshop and turn it into a 2 or 3 day retreat? And, it became this thing. It was never like the plan was laid out.
Yeah.
Everything kept being like that onion. It just kept being revealed. Like,
Yeah.
really? I'm supposed to be a speaker? You're kidding. I don't know how to do that. But that's what is the motivation now. The drive is different than that drive that I had when I was younger to just do music. The drive now is to just express who I am. And when I'm not doing that, I can feel it. I can feel that, like if I'm like being in a box. Like if if someone just wants me to sing one song somewhere, and it's just like, you're part of this thing, and it's like I can feel that it's like, well, that wasn't quite what, how I want to express.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's real important for all of us to just keep saying, am I expressing who I am to 100%? And when you're not, don't freak out. Just really start to look at, well, what am I being called? What else would feel like it's more expression of who I am?
Yeah. Oh, I love stories that kind of lay out that how a seed is planted
A seed is planted,
somewhere
yes.
in a very small, just seemingly insignificant part of the road, right?
Yeah.
And just how one thing leads to another, to another, to another
I
from
mean, it
that,
could
and
be a
how,
book that falls off a shelf.
yeah.
I mean, it could be meeting someone randomly that, or that you reconnect with someone you haven't seen in years, and it's like that leads you to something else. I mean, I actually, the book thing is really an interesting story. I literally had a book fall off a shelf when I was at a bookstore, and I picked it up and was like, oh, this is interesting. And this led me on a whole other path for years of this one author was saying, like, I mean, I read her book because it just seemed interesting. It was called Inner Peace for Busy Women. It's like, oh, I could use that. And everything she was saying were like song titles of mine. And so I contacted her and said, do you want to use any of my songs? And I mean, I've done this with so many authors, and that led to years of working with some of these incredible New Thought authors like Joan Borsenko and Alan Cohen and Donna Eden. I mean, all these people who've got huge platforms, but I became their musician because I came to them saying, I think we line up here. Do you want to use my music?
Yeah.
And, it just wound up to be that they would start to use me, maybe at first for free, but then going, well, this is working for me too, so it's creating, that's what I think, even just telling you these stories, it's reminding me of, I think the bottom line of maybe all of the things I'm saying tonight to you is that we create our reality. We create what it is that we want to do. I mean, yes, sometimes things plop in our laps, and that's fabulous, but it probably plops because you created somehow the space for it to come.
Yeah, you've allowed it. You've allowed
Yeah.
it. Oh my gosh. I'm so fired up right now. You are so inspiring. I love your stories so much. I know that I am not the only one too. We have Shelly's in the comments saying she needed to hear this conversation today. And I'm so glad you're with us, Shelly. I can't wait to have you on this show. We've already planted that seed. Yeah. And Anne has been joining us, and Nelson also. Thank you all for jumping into the comments. Good to see you here. So Karen, oh my God, I know you've got so many more stories. I know that. And I'd love to hear some more at another time. But I want to make sure that we talk about your retreats and what you have coming up.
Okay. So the best thing to do actually is for anyone who's interested in anything I'm doing is just go to my website, just karendrucker.com, and sign up on my email list because I send out a little blog every month with a free song. And then I announce usually what my retreats are. And, I have a few online women's, it's pretty much women's stuff. I have been doing a few co-ed, but I just really, I like being with women. It's really fun. We go deep really fast. And so I have one happening in October up at Alderbrook Resort and Spa. And I've gotten to a point, it's really interesting too. I've gotten to a point after being online like this that I really love smaller groups. I really love just intimate, all the women's things that I do online now. Like I'll do one in the fall. I don't have the date set yet, so that's why I say sign up on my newsletter. But like I'm doing one called Fun in the Deep End, and that'll be probably in September. And I just find that when it's smaller, it's just so much sweeter. I used to do, even online, I learned how to, have 100 people, and it's just like, I think one of my favorite exercises is to look at everything you're doing and say, is that it or not it? Does this light me up? Does this dim me down? Does this give me energy? Does this suck my energy? And I realized with the really big events, it's like, yeah, I could do that. But when it was just 20 or 25 people, I got so much out of it. So a lot of my things now are just a lot smaller and sweeter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I would love to sign up for one of your retreats. And I'm
I'd love
sure
to have you.
a lot of those listening would too. So, like Karen said, go to karendrucker.com. And she's going to have all of those events, future events coming up listed. So, it's important that you get on her email list so that you can stay up to date on everything that she's doing. And Karen, where's the best place for everybody to listen to your music? Where can they find you?
Well, I always say to people, just whenever you can go to an artist's website and buy anything from them, that's the millionth of a thousandth of a penny that we're going to get. We're going to get a little bit more if you buy stuff off of our own websites. But I'm on Spotify and Pandora. I have a YouTube channel if you want to sign up for my YouTube channel. So some of my videos and actually, so one of the things that I've done ever since the pandemic, I've done a thing called Second Sunday Sacred Sing at 6. So the second Sunday of every month, I've done a free chanting thing for an hour. And so I'm taking the summer off, but I'll start again in the fall. I've been doing this for 2 years. And it's just an opportunity to just do what just be in that place of, I truly believe that when we sing together, we connect. And that's what we need so much of right now. So that's one of the things that I love to do, and to teach how to write your own song or how to write your own chant workshops, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I just love doing all this stuff.
That's great. And I just want to thank you too for all the beautiful music that you have contributed to this community. I have seen, like I said, I have used so many of your songs in countless services. And I've been able to see with my own eyes the way it lights people up, the way it draws people together, the way it touches people. Your melodies are just enchanting. I love how easily accessible you've made your music too. Like you have so many of your great chants that you provide a lyric for, you provide the, chords and everything. And so thank you for that. Thank you for that. And
My pleasure. I didn't write this music to be, sitting in my garage with, CDs. It's like
right.
I want to put it out there. So anybody who wants to use my music, I have tracks for everything, so it's like, I just want it out in the world. And I just think we just need as much positive message music as we can. And, let me do another plug for something else, which is I'm part of a whole group, and I wonder if you are part of this too, is Empower Music. Do you know about them?
The Empowered Singers?
No. So this,
okay.
Let me tell you. So anyone who does this kind of music, positive message music, we are all part of this organization called Empower, EMPOWER, MA, musicandarts.com. And if you go to their website, you'll see all of the musicians, just like me, who are doing this, who are doing this kind of specific music.
I know exactly, yeah.
And so every year we have this thing called the Posse Awards, the Posse Conference. And so that's going to be in September at Unity Village. And it's a week long, 5 days, I guess, just immersed in music. Songwriting classes, I'm going to teach, I think, 3 classes, concerts every night. Everything to do with music and songwriting. So I invite your listeners to check that out because it's a whole other world that I would have never even known about. I mean, when
Mm-hmm.
someone first said to me, you could actually like start playing some churches, and there were other churches other than the little one that I was, playing at. I had no idea. And I've been making a living at this now for about 20 years.
Yeah.
I could work every weekend because there's so many. There's, centers for spiritual living churches, unity churches, and then all the other miscellaneous churches. There's a huge world out there of places that you can sing at that want your music. So,
Yeah. Right. And it's a very positive and affirming world too.
oh God,
Uh,
yes, it feels great.
Yeah. So if you need a space like this may be something you want to investigate. And Anne was kind enough to add the link for the Empower group. Thank you so much for that.
Oh yes,
But
and Pogue. Thank you very much, Anne.
yeah. Well, I want to respect your time, Karen. Thank you so much again for doing this. I sincerely hope that our paths cross again
I
soon.
want
I'd love
to.
to meet you in
I would love
person.
to
And
meet you in person. I just feel
yeah.
like, you're like a new friend. So I would love to. I'd love
Yes.
to. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe I'll come down to San Diego. I haven't been down there for a long time. So,
Yeah, I'd love to see you there. I'm going to sign up for one of your retreats too. So I'm going to sign up for your email list and I'll be keeping an eye on that. But
okay.
thank you again. You're a huge inspiration. Thank you for
Oh,
the
thank
time.
you.
And I do hope that we meet again soon. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thanks for watching the replays. I hope you're just as inspired as I am, just to get out there and be unstoppable. So I will be back here next week on Wednesday with another wonderful guest, and we'll see you then. Good
Bye, everybody.
night.
Thank you.